Hey there my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. I apologize, they're doing construction literally right outside my window right now, so hopefully it's not super obnoxious in the background and we can get through this video. So we talk a lot about wedding budgets and certain aspects of planning your wedding, but what about the actual wedding vendors that you choose? Having a killer team on your wedding day is going to really make a difference when it comes to your overall stress level, happiness, and expectations for your wedding day. So today we're going to talk all about how to find those perfect wedding vendors for your wedding day. Before we dive in, I feel like I should highlight what your most important wedding vendors are and who I'm going to be referring to in this video. So when I say wedding vendors, that is your wedding photographer, your wedding caterer, your venue, your wedding planner if you choose to have one, a videographer, a DJ, your alcohol caterer, and your form of entertainment, whether that's a live band or a DJ, and your florist too. So those are all what makes up a typical team of wedding vendors on an average wedding day. So maybe you're just in the beginning stages of planning your wedding and you're looking into everyone that's in your area as far as wedding vendors go, and it could be a little bit overwhelming for you, I'm sure. There are probably so many options and you might be thinking, how in the heck am I supposed to choose between all of these options out here? So for starters, the first step you should do when it comes to looking into your wedding vendors and how to kind of narrow the field to know who's right for you is to look at your budget. So I have said this in probably 90% of the wedding videos that I have made on this channel, but please set a wedding budget and have it categorized for each category of your wedding. So for your photographs, for your decor, for your flowers, and really break that down so you know how much you are able to spend in each category, and that's going to make a huge difference when it comes to selecting your wedding vendors for your day. If you need help coming up with a wedding budget, I do have a video on how to set up a wedding budget, and I make it super simple for you. I'll link that right here. Please go check that out so that you'll be on the right path to make this a whole lot easier for you. So once you have a budget in mind and you know how much you can spend in each category, this will help you determine who you can hire within that realm. So let's say, for example, your flowers. Let's say that you have allotted $2,500 for your florals, for every floral included in your wedding, ceremony, reception, bouquets, all of it. So when you're doing your research on florists, or maybe asking for recommendations from friends or other vendors, or just people that are in the industry, this is the number that you want to be sharing with them. So you might be thinking, well, it's flowers, won't they cost the same everywhere I go? Yes and no. So there are different styles that different wedding florists have, and that could determine, the size of the arrangements that they're making, the overall, where they source their flowers from, and that sort of thing. So you really want to make sure that you have a good idea of what you can spend in this arena before you actually select your florist, and make sure that you're having that conversation with them as far as what you can spend. So when you're doing your research and you find a florist that you really like, but maybe you're seeing all of their arrangements are really huge and lush and lots of really big blooms, they might be a wedding florist that's not necessarily in your budget. So this goes for every other wedding vendor included in your wedding as well. Start with your budget and find vendors that fit within that. Another thing that I've said a lot in a lot of videos is to prioritize. So this goes hand in hand with your budget. Once you've set your budget, sit down and set the priorities you have for your wedding. So this is where you feel comfortable splurging a little bit, where you're okay to spend more of your money and maybe scrimp on other categories. So maybe you want to have really beautiful photographs, or you have this photographer that you've wanted to shoot your wedding for years, and you know that they cost $5,000. So that's probably going to take away from a chunk of money somewhere else. But if that's your priority, that's okay. You just need to make that work for the other aspects of your wedding. Okay, so once you've figured out your budget, you've got your priorities, where to actually start when it comes to looking for your wedding vendors? The first place I would start is just start asking around. So maybe you've got some friends that have recently gotten married, ask them the vendors that they used, what their experience was like using them, maybe if you're comfortable talking about it, what they spent, kind of what their vendors charge, so that you can get a good idea on pricing. And then also, if you have any other vendors booked already, you can ask them for recommendations on different areas. People ask me all the time for recommendations across the board for wedding planners or for wedding vendors, and I know that I get vendor referrals all the time from other wedding vendors as well. So The wedding industry is pretty interlaced, and we have a lot of good connections, a lot of good networks, and we work with a lot of the same vendors a lot of the time. And so we have good recommendations based on our own experience working with different wedding vendors. So it's a good place to start if you have anyone booked already, is to ask them for recommendations. There are also some really great online resources, so places like the Wedding Wire or the Knot have actual built-in search engines on them so that you can search wedding vendors right on their site. You can select by category or just overall wedding vendors in your area and search that way. It's also a really great place to read reviews on your wedding vendors as well. Reviews are huge. That's a huge part of my business. Referrals are my #1 source of business, and getting reviews is really helpful in that. So look online, check out these search engines, and make sure that you're reading reviews. Also Google. You don't have to search on a wedding specific website. You can just Google wedding planners in my area and you will come up with a good search. Keep in mind here though, based on the order of appearance on a Google web search, just because at the top doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best. You can spend a lot of money to rank your website higher, so keep that in mind. Just because you're seeing someone rank to the top of a Google web page doesn't mean that they're going to be the best option for you. So again, make sure you're going in, take a look at their website, look at their style, get as many client testimonials as you can, read reviews, and really dig in to make sure that they're going to be the right fit for you. And finally, Instagram. Instagram's actually a great way to look for wedding vendors these days. It's basically a digital portfolio. Wedding vendors will share their weddings that they've worked on in the past, and this goes across all wedding vendors. So look them up on Instagram. You can see actual work that they've done, and also look at the comments. Maybe you'll see past clients commenting on their photos to see their relationship with their past client, kind of what they have to say about that, and just use it as a tool to scroll through, see if their style is vibing with you, and if you get a good sense of their style from their Instagram. Once you've sort of narrowed it down and found some vendors that you feel like would be a good fit for you, make sure you meet everybody in person if you can. I work with a lot of destination clients, and I know it's difficult to sometimes meet them in person. At least schedule like a Zoom call or something so that you can have that sort of face-to-face interaction. I'm somebody that feeds a lot off of other people's body language and being able to have that conversation and see if you can really vibe with that person. I think that's just as important in a wedding vendor, because this is somebody that you're going to be spending a lot of time communicating with over a long period of time, and also the team that will be there on your wedding day, which is a huge day and something that you will hopefully remember for the rest of your life. So making sure that you are meeting people in person and getting a good vibe off of them, and somebody that you feel comfortable and trust and feel good with. Also keep in mind, it's okay to meet with multiple wedding vendors before you actually book one. I've had clients say that they feel weird meeting with multiple florists before they choose one, or that they're like cheating on the first one that they met with if they go and have another consult with somebody else. Same goes for photographers, for basically any wedding vendor that you plan to hire. It's okay to meet with multiple people. I feel like that's how you're really going to get a sense of who they are, how you guys work together, and really a sense of their style and their working style as well as their aesthetic style. And that's something that I feel like you really need to sit down and meet with them in person to know. I mean, you could look on their Instagram and they could have beautiful photos, beautiful work. You really feel what their style is, and maybe you really relate to that, but then you meet with them in person and you're just completely opposite people, and you don't feel like it's somebody that you could have this constant communication with for the next 9 months of your life. So that's really important, and it's okay if you feel like you need to line up 5 different meetings with 5 different wedding photographers to really get a sense of who you like and who you want to work with. That's okay, do it. Just make sure that you're planning for that time and you're starting that process way in advance, so that you're not feeling like you have to scramble to choose, make a quick decision because you're running out of time to book this vendor. So there's just a few quick tips on how to find your perfect wedding vendor for your wedding day. Now that you have a good idea on how to find your wedding vendors, make sure you check out my video on when you should book each wedding vendor to make sure that you are staying on track on your wedding planning, and I'll link that video right here. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice.